So I am feeling really unmotivated today. The weather is so hot and humid, and Stephanie's away, and Lilo's being particularly special. And when I feel this unmotivated, I know that I really need to do something, otherwise I'm going to get stuck in a rut. It's like the pre-rut, so I have to at least work out, maybe go for a run. Oh, unrelated note, I just want to say that I love my books and my bookshelf. Super proud of that. I have tons of really cool books. The only problem is, since I don't really have a home as such, I have a room that my mother-in-law is kind enough to keep in her house here. Have most of my books are like in there. And Lord of the Ring Lego set that she got me for Christmas a couple years ago, which I still haven't opened because I don't want to open it and then have to move. So like one of these days we're probably going to wind up getting a home, and then when we go there I'm going to put the Lego set together and I'll be able to play with it. One of the things I regret big time from when I was younger, I used to have tons of Legos when I was little. That's how I looked at it. I was like, I'm going to have these till I'm like an adult. And then I got into high school and I was like, yeah, I don't need these anymore. I gave them away to my ex-girlfriend's little brother. And then like the last couple of years, I've just been like, man, I wish I had Legos again. So note to you guys that are young and that have Legos, don't get rid of them. Hang on to that stuff because you're going to want it when you're a little bit older, even if you think you might not. So when I'm working out, the majority of what I'm doing really is injury proofing. I had some issues with my shoulder during the last year or so, and a few injuries before that with my fingers. And typically I've been pretty good about warming up and really taking my time before getting into climbing, but in the last couple of years, the age, I guess, is starting to catch up with me. There's a certain point when you're around like 30 something and you're used to climbing like you're 20 something, and you figure, oh, it's okay, I'll just skip the warm up, or oh, I can get on that even though it's pretty close to my limit. And you tweak something or you pull something, and if you're not really careful to heed that and to take time to work on oppositional muscle groups, so for me, I got to work on my push muscles and like the things that I'm not typically using while I'm climbing, because that helps prevent injury and imbalance. And when I'm on the road and I'm not climbing, honestly, the majority of what I'm trying to do is just to work on keeping my antagonistic muscles, the push muscles, reasonably fit, and just getting good blood flow to all of my joints and my connective tissue before I start doing anything on the hangboard that resembles climbing even. So Lilo's idea of a workout is murdering her Minnie Mouse with the TheraBand. Pretty sure that's not the manufacturer's intended usage. My sugar's a little bit on the high side now, $1.54. It's not terribly unusual if I'm doing like a hangboard workout or climbing workout that's a little bit less aerobic in nature. But the good news is that I'm going to go for a nice long walk and get some kale. I'm going to get some greens for dinner. In other news, something else that I really wanted to mention, I'm really excited about this idea that I had, and I would like you to weigh in on it and give me some honest feedback, because I would like to do a print journal that is focused on adventure and type 1 diabetes. I recently launched a Patreon campaign because my goal is to do what I'm doing full time. I want to give inspiration and information to the community, raise awareness for type 1 diabetes, but do it in a way that is empowering and is also informative and interesting and paints diabetes in a different light than what we typically see, when we see the Liberty Medical, the diabetes guy. and something that feels more authentic to me and other people who are like me. And I know I'm not the only one who has that desire. So I started thinking about it, and like, I love my photography and I want to print it and sell it, but the problem is if you try to print and sell a photograph, it costs too much for what people are able to contribute, and so the price point is way off. Like, I started thinking and said, you know, what if I made a little photo book, like a photo journal, that is a collection of 50 of my best photographs from a month of whatever adventure project that I'm working on, the people that I'm working with, their stories, their photographs, and like put it together and publish it twice a year. You know, for a photo book that comes twice yearly and that is a tangible thing that you get to hold, I think it's a pretty cool idea. And when I thought about it, I was like, you know, I would actually buy that. Something different, you know, it's not just digital double tap and be done with it. It's something that you get to look forward to, that you get to hold in your hands. I'd be curious to hear what you think. Is that something that you would buy into? And if I could get between 300 and 400 people to sign on who thought that this was a cool idea and who would subscribe to it, I could publish 4 times a year instead of 2 times a year and have a quarterly publication that is unlike anything else that exists. I mean, even in a digital space, the whole adventure media and chronic illnesses, it's very niche. Nobody wants to get into that, but I do. I want to get into that. I am into that. That's why I'm here. Aside from the fact that it literally feels more dangerous than being up on a rock face, I have to say that being able to walk to the grocery store is one of the things that I really enjoy about being back on the East Coast in Massachusetts. It's good. I can get some cardio, get some food, and you know, like, I've gotten a lot more lenient about what I call exercise these days, because I've realized that, you know, you got to listen to your body, and some days you feel like going for a run, some days just going for a walk is enough. Making the decision to go out and do something today was super good. Totally glad that I did it, because I feel like way better. That's usually how I know. It's like if I feel like doing nothing, that's how I know I need to go do something. It was actually looking for the Judge Judy episode of this magazine, but they don't have it anymore. Okay, I got my kale. I'm gonna have to be content with that. No National Enquirer issue about Judge Judy and her secret flings, trysts, romances, and etc. I was gonna include that in one of these vlogs for Mike, my brother-in-law, but sorry, dude, if you're watching. I tried, not very hard, but it's almost dark, but I can get a few miles in before it gets too dangerous. I mean, right now it's always like kind of dangerous when you're walking on the roads here, because people don't recognize that sidewalks are different from the roads, and that people who are not in cars and driving like complete bodily orifices, you know, that we have a right to exist as well. So I want to focus on walking and not dying, because I would like to see you in the next episode of the AdventureRx, and hopefully you'll subscribe and I'll survive, and yeah, we'll see you there.